Hello everybody and welcome to this video on a new card game. I'm covering quite a lot at the moment. This one is called Faeria and it very recently released on Steam. It is, as you would expect, free to play with microtransactions. You open loot boxes in this game and you get cards from them, pretty standard stuff. As you level up you'll also unlock more cards. There's an arena equivalent mode if you want to compare it to Hearthstone. But yeah, comparing to Hearthstone might not be the best idea because, as you will be able to see on screen, this is very different. It's going in a completely different direction to the whole Hearthstone idea of playing cards on a board and then either choosing to go face or trade. In this game, you have to choose between playing certain lands, where you want to place them, and other similar mechanics and movement-based mechanics. So let's start with the basics. You'll be able to see whenever it's my turn, and even on my opponent's turn, that we often choose in this early game to play a different coloured land. So my opponent, as you'll be able to see, is playing a lot of red-coloured creatures, and therefore, for these red-coloured creatures to be played, he needs to have a certain number of red lands in play currently. So as you can see, he has got one creature on a mountain and another mountain directly in front of his face, that orb thing that you can see with 20 life to the right of it. On my turn, as you can see, I just played a desert in order to play this one desert cost creature for 4 mana, or Faeria as it's called in this game, as you would expect, and then played a card that allowed me to then generate another piece of land, this elemental card. So both me and my opponent have played an elemental card. He has played his and generated the mountain in front of his face, and I've played mine and generated my desert kind of in an aggressive position, heading straight towards his face. So in this game, given that there's a whole hex-based, tactics-focused element of where you want to place lands and therefore where you want to place your creatures, there are different strategies to how you want to place your land tiles, as I'll probably call them from now on. So yellow, or desert, or whatever you want to call it, this colour is typically quite aggressive. They get a lot of buffs based on attacking the opponent's face, as well as movement-based mechanics such as flying. As you'll be able to see, 2 of my current creatures have wings to the side of them, and they're floating, bobbing up and down. So they can move over the ocean, i.e. the places where land tiles have not yet been placed. Normal creatures, for the most part, other than aquatic creatures, wouldn't be able to traverse this ocean. And so this is quite advantageous for me. My other creature, the 2/4 with the arrow on it, that has, I believe, dash for a certain amount, and dash is a mechanic that allows a creature to be played on a tile and then immediately dash forwards for however much the dash number is specified for. So if it was dash 2, I could play it on one of my lands and then dash 2 spaces into my opponent's territory. So it's really useful for just playing hyper aggressive. So with the placement of lands coupled with the whole kind of card idea, it's super interesting and very different to a lot of the games currently on the market. If you look at Hearthstone, that's sort of the dominating force in the whole online CCG kind of space. And then you have things like Elder Scrolls Legends, Weebstone, or whatever that game is called, where it's all the anime kind of characters and all that kind of thing. What is it actually called? I'm not sure, but I'm calling it Weebstone. And there's a bunch of other games which are very similar in terms of their mechanics. Essentially, they are Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone-esque in their style, as in you play creatures and you either trade or go face. And then you have some games trying to do things a bit differently. So you've got Duelist, which is very similar to this game, which also has a board-based kind of game plan. And this game is sort of the next extension of that idea. So, as you can see, I've placed one of my creatures on my opponent's forest land. So, by placing creatures on the opponent's lands, you actually block where they can place their creatures, which is really useful, as by blocking where they can place their creatures, you kind of force them to place their creatures in unoptimal positions. So if I had the choice, I would try and place another creature in the other forest to the left of my creature on the other forest, as that way he would need to place another forest in order to then play another green creature, even if he could actually mathematically afford to play those creatures with their Faeria and their land cost fulfilled. So here you can see I'm heading towards my opponent's face, and as I did mention, this is quite an aggressive deck. I find that playing an aggressive deck when you're just getting into a collectible card game is a pretty good idea, for both the reason of not losing all of the money, and also just because your card collection is going to be probably quite limited. So yeah. So here you can see he makes some trades, and most creatures can move one space and then trade afterwards. So there, he makes a couple of obvious trades, as you would expect him to do. Fortunately, we do manage to trade one for one, so we're not in the worst position. I've got my flying creature down at the bottom, as you can see, and I've got that Zealous Crusader, who gets buffed every time it attacks the face. So another keyword that some creatures have in this game is charge. Charge is another movement focused keyword. A lot of the keywords in this game are movement focused because it maximizes the use of the whole mechanic of having actual clever movement be a factor in whether you win or lose a game. So charge, if you're interested, allows you to move up to however many tiles in a straight line your charge actually specifies. So I think my creature has charge 2, and so he can move, whenever you see it highlighted, 2 spaces and then attack something, instead of 1 space and then attack something, as most creatures can. So there, I'm moving over here in order to take a good trade, as this essentially allows my creature to trade once and then do some damage to his big creature. I'm moving aggressively forward with my 5/2, as that can trade well with his 6/5, and also playing another creature all up in his face. And when you're playing aggressively, a really big deal is getting a well-positioned land close to their face, so you can play creatures really close to them and maximize the chance that they'll get at least one attack to their face in before they get traded away or removed with some kind of spell-based removal, or as it's called in this game, events. It's their equivalent of spells or actions from Legends. So here he's trying to decide what to do. He's playing a couple of prairie lands, trying to move closer to my face to try and switch the match dynamic round so he can start punching me with a big creature. So here you can see I've got this card called Soul Pact, which costs 2 deserts, which I have. If you look in the bottom left corner, I've got the big blue orb with 4 in it. The 4 is my total mana or Faeria cost that I currently have. And the yellow hex, just to the right of that, is my count of deserts. So as you can see, if you count on screen, I do have 4 deserts currently on the board. So I can pretty much play any yellow card in my deck, as long as I eventually find the right amount of mana or Faeria for it. So here, I've managed to remove his entire board and position creatures aggressively next to his face. And he's probably going to be forced to make some defensive moves, play a taunt creature. In this game, taunt equals any creatures of the opponent's next to or adjacent to a taunt creature has to attack that creature until it's dead before they can do anything else. So you wouldn't even be able to move, you wouldn't be able to shift sideways or anything to enable better positioning. You've got to attack that creature with your creature if there's a taunt creature next to your creature. So here you go, I'm attacking face, and that does buff my Zealous Crusader a whole bunch, which is nice. So I've got a lot of good positioning here. I've got 2 creatures next to his face and a even bigger creature just to the back of his face. So yeah, this is pretty much the idea of Faeria if you're at all interested in trying. You place land according to your game plan, if you're playing a mid-range or a control deck, you typically want to branch out and control these Faeria or mana wells, those 4 glowing points on the map, as every turn those will refill, and if you have a creature next to it, you can pick up the mana and allow you to play bigger things faster. And another really cool thing for mid-range and control decks in this game is that if you don't spend all of your mana on one turn, you can then carry on that mana into the next turn. So if I didn't spend any mana this turn, I have 5 this turn, and next turn I had, like, say, an 8-cost creature. Given that you gain 3 Faeria or mana every turn on your turn, I would be able to play an 8-cost creature, theoretically. And this actually allows big creatures to be played really early on, sometimes turn 2, turn 3. So given that you do gain 3 mana every turn, you can theoretically play a 3-cost creature on turn 1, a 6-cost creature on turn 2, and actually a 10-cost creature on turn 3. As if you place a creature... Actually, I guess let's just keep it simple. So you can play potentially a 9-cost creature on turn 3, which is insane, as long as you've played enough land of that specific type to fuel that creature's cost. So control decks and slow decks in this game are definitely not at a disadvantage, as you will be able to see if you play this game for at all length of time. It's really cool. It's got a bunch of really sweet mechanics, and yeah, another thing that I will mention, when it goes to my turn, I'll just point out it should be my turn just about now. You should be able to see in the bottom right, so this is the control panel, if you will. Whenever it's your turn, you can choose, of course, to play a specific land to fuel your deck. If you've got, say, a yellow deck, you play deserts, if red, mountains, if green, forests, and if blue, ponds. But if you don't want to do that, particularly this is relevant in the late game, you can also choose to generate either an extra Faeria on your turn to perhaps fuel the spending on a bigger creature or a bigger spell or something similar, or you can choose to draw an extra card. So this is really cool. In the late game, you'll often have all the positioning, all the land tiles that you want. You've developed up, say you're playing aggressive like I am at the moment. Say that you have a good number of tiles right next to your opponent's face. You don't really need to spend time and turns generating more deserts because you've got enough deserts to afford everything in your deck. Therefore, the best use of your time really is to either draw cards into bigger creatures, bigger threats, or removal, so your creatures can just focus on going face, or you can just gain extra mana, or Faeria as it's called. So there's a lot of really cool different tweaks to the formula, on top of the obvious inclusion of a hex-based kind of tactical board, and all of the suite of mechanics and good positioning that come with that, and movement and all that good stuff. You've also got these really cool tweaks, so the fact that you do have the option of actually doing something productive with your turns, you can draw cards and gain extra mana in the late game, and also the fact that Faeria carries over every turn. So these little inclusions mean that you'll rarely have nothing to do. You'll rarely have a creature in your hand that you just cannot ever play, because theoretically you could just wait a turn and just spend all of your mana from the previous turn and that turn that you're currently on that big creature. It's really cool. And also the design philosophy that they've gone for of really reinforcing the importance of land positioning and creature positioning with all of the many movement-based keywords that they have. So this creature that I'm just playing now, the Oridrim Fanatic, has jump. So he can jump up to 2 spaces away. It's sort of similar to charge, except he can jump over obstacles. So he could potentially, if he was 1 space forward onto the slightly more north-facing desert, he could jump onto my opponent's prairie tile which has an ocean in between it. So most creatures would need to have a land there to run across, say if they had charge, but because he has jump, he can just hop over, which is really cool. There are other mechanics as well. There are aquatic creatures who can swim through the ocean where there's no lands that have been placed. They are often used to pick up and harvest Faeria from 2 wells at once, as you can have one sit in front of one well, and then it turns into your turn, and they harvest that well, and then you move them forward 1 step, and they pick up the other well's Faeria, which is really powerful. And as I've mentioned, you've got Dash, which allows you to play a creature and then immediately have it move forwards, either aggressively or just defensively, or whatever you want to do with it. You've got Charge, which allows a creature to move in a straight line for more than 1 space. Then you've got Jump, as I've mentioned, which allows you to hop over obstacles. You've got Flying, which allows you to just go everywhere, basically. And the strongest creatures in the game are often... So, there are these 4 big dragons of each colour in the game, and they all have, I think, Flying and Charge, and this is the most potent combination of keywords, as they allow you to essentially traverse the map extremely quickly. So you could be playing aggressively with them and then realise you're maybe in danger and, charge across the map in a straight line for 3 spaces, completely unhindered by ocean or land. The only thing that could theoretically block such a creature would be an actual minion in the way of their path. So yeah, this game really does do a lot of really interesting things, a lot of new things, and it's a lot of fun to play. It starts you off playing a lot of tutorial stuff, and you get a fair amount of free goodies from that. And as I mentioned, when you level up, you actually do gain a new card that you don't have already in your collection, and it offers you between 3. So it will say, once you've leveled up to a significant milestone, here are 3 cards that you don't have copies of. Pick one, and you'll keep that one. It's a really cool way to do it. And I will do a future video on Pandora mode, which is the arena or drafting based mode of this game, which has some very cute mechanics and very fun things. So that's going to have its own video, so look forward to that in future. But yeah, I will leave you with the rest of this match on From the Ladder. I am obviously a scrub at the moment. As you can see, I'm rank 22. I have to imagine it goes 25 all the way down to rank 1, and then some kind of elite legends system similar to Hearthstone or Elder Scrolls Legends. And yeah, it's a really fun game. I can only recommend it. If you want to try it, it's available on Steam at the moment. And yeah, pretty cool stuff. Also, if there is a referral system, I'll just do a bit of shilling right now. There is a referral system. If you name me as your referee, then you'll gain extra loot boxes and therefore extra cards. If you want to try that, I wouldn't blame you, but don't feel forced or anything. It's a pretty fun game. It's doing a lot of things that are interesting. It requires a lot of thought as to where you place your lands and how you move your creatures. So the idea of blocking your opponent's tiles, as my 5/2 is directly in front of my opponent, it's forcing him to play that red mountain over there. And yeah, it's really cool. This game does a lot of fun things, new things, and I can only recommend it. It's pretty good. So, as always guys, thank you for watching. Feel free to watch the rest of this match. I will leave it in the video for you to get a better idea of how the game works. And yeah, see you in the next one. Ta-ta!